All right, welcome back. Here we are on a feel-good football Friday. Once again, if you're out and about in the Conshohocken area or the mainline area or anywhere close to those two locations, I'll be on the ones and twos, as they say, DJing at the Daisy Tavern, a beautiful, beautiful place in Conshohocken. So slap it in Google and come on out. Great place to catch all the games while I'm providing a little bit of a soundtrack. All right, putting that to the side, let's go ahead and talk to Mark Henry Jr. on a Friday because we got ourselves a big game for the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to focus on the Eagles and Bengals here. Of course, fire up DraftKings Sportsbook, but college football, NFL Week 8, a lot to do. Hello, Mark.
Hello. Well, we got a barker over here. So if people here, I know Sean Brace. We're not the biggest fan of dogs getting involved in content. Ben, maybe a dog named Ben out there. Maybe he shows his face a little bit too much. I can't help it if Becky barks a little bit or shows her face on the program. I apologize to Sean Brace.
Multiple press passes. There was a girl crawling around on the ground interviewing Ben with a microphone at midfield. Like, all right,
that's actually my goal with all this content stuff. If I can become the person that crawls around with Ben and Uga and interviews them on the field, that'll work. I'm in.
Oh, I know. I'm just an evil, evil man hating on the beautiful Ben of college football. All right.
By the way, wait, real quick. How about Georgia not even bringing the dog to the game? Can't fly or too immature to fly to the game. They had to leave the dog at home, and then they went on the road to Texas. I don't know if you can bring that dog around anymore.
Really?
Dog change.
Team flight, and you can't bring Uga?
It's his first year. He's a pup. They said he's way too immature. They say he's jumping on everybody, biting everything. Wild.
Yeah, that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Still one of the best ever is when Bevo attacked Uga.
That was Uga 10. I think we're on Uga 12 now.
Wow.
I think we're on Uga 12.
Time flies. All right, Mark, we got a lot to get to here. I want to start in the world of the NFL. And last night, Vikings second straight loss. The Rams, welcome back Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. That was fun. Any big takeaway from that game from the Rams perspective or the Minnesota Vikings? Because I think you're similar to me. I want to give all the credit in the world to Minnesota. Their record deserves that, and the way that they've played has been impressive. But when it comes push come to shove in January, I don't know if I'm backing Sam Darnold. I just don't think I'm going to be able to do it. And I'm hearing a lot of that. Not to say last night is like, yeah, see, I told you so. But the Rams look pretty good. So my big takeaway, I guess, from last night would be more along the lines of like the Rams could stay healthy. They might make a run and make the playoffs.
So I don't take the Rams that seriously because it's that defense. And I guess the defense did do a good job down the stretch of that game. I mean, the game starts, 17-14 in the first. I don't even know how long it was into that game, but 14-14, 17-14 it was. But it felt like it was going to be a track meet. I know Beef was texting us saying that. And it did go over. It hit the 50. It went over that 47 number. But Rams defense really did bear down in that second half. I don't buy into that necessarily as a long-term thing. You look at what the Rams defense has done in a lot of these games, and they've been picked apart. There's just not a lot of talent on that defense. You lose Aaron Donald, you lose a couple other pieces, Bobby Wagner, a couple other guys across that defense, and Ernest Jones. I just don't know if you're able to just kind of plug and play it the rest of the way. Now, I will say they're not dead because that NFC West, nobody's dead. Yeah. Anybody can win that division. I was going into last week saying, San Fran's just going to clean this thing up and it'll be totally fine. Even if they have to just get to 9 or 10 wins, they'll take care of business. They already beat Seattle. Now you don't have Debo. There seems to be more kind of questions about if McCaffrey's ever coming back, more questions on the offensive line. I still think if you made me guess who wins that division, it's San Fran, but you have to at least open up the conversation to teams like Arizona and LA able to put it together.
You're right about that. And because the 49ers 3-4, that record is just awful. It really is. As far as DraftKings and what they have for the division, trying to pull it up here as far as futures are concerned. Yep, I've done this before.
While you're pulling that up, I'll just say on the Vikings, I actually thought it was like a good Darnold game from the most part. They weren't able to run the ball very well, which really is what killed them in this game, and felt like they weren't able to find kind of a guy outside of Jefferson to step up. They did a good job on Addison.
It's fair because he did. He had 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. He did get lucky on one of those balls up for grabs. But still, hey, look, his record or his box score is what his box score is. Sam Darnold's played very well for Minnesota. I give him a lot of credit. His 4th stop in the NFL, I didn't see it happening, but some other people did see him having success up there in Minnesota. To win the NFC West right here, right now, 49ers still favored at plus 150, Seahawks plus 320, Cardinals plus 320, Rams plus 370. So still up for grabs again. 49ers 3-4 in the season with the game coming up against the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. All right, moving on, putting a bow on the Thursday night action. Let's go ahead and hit the fast forward button and get to Sunday. Eagles and the Bengals. What's your gut reaction to the spread? Let's just start there because it's 3 points. It dropped down to 2. It's back up to 3. I said all along that I think we'll hold steady at 3 come kickoff. I think that's probably going to play out true here. I would imagine if you talk to 10 sports gamblers that tend to read into sort of the things the lines are, they would say that this is a Cincinnati Bengal number. What is your take, though?
I think we'd be favored by 3 if it was in Philly. Like,
Okay.
I think these are 2 pretty close teams. And I know that maybe gets people riled up, but since he's 3-4, they had a close loss to Kansas City. And I will say,
And that Baltimore game, too.
Baltimore game pretty close as well. They blow that one. Yeah, I mean, they should have won that game. That's the one I should have brought up. You're absolutely correct there. But I'll say, to me, I tweeted this out, I think. I have less of an idea about what happens in this game than maybe any of the last 3 years. Like, you could tell me that Burrow comes in, he gets rid of the ball, quick passes, shredding us up. Jamar breaks 1 or 2 slants, takes him to the house, and they just score way too much. And the defense, Bengals defense, definitely vulnerable. You've seen them get picked apart in games. Last 2 weeks, they've played a lot better. So maybe Lou Anarumo has figured it out. So, yeah, you could tell me the Bengals blow us out in a similar way that the Bucs did. You could tell me that the Eagles show up and we're like, man, the Eagles should have been favored. Look at the only reason we're low on them is these games without AJ and Lane and Devontae. They've been really good with them in the lineup. And then they could come out and blow them out. Or you could tell me either team wins a close game. I'm sorry for terrible analysis there. I have less of an idea of what happens in this game than I feel like I have in any Eagles game of recent memory. What I will say is trying to take off the blinders, trying to take off, get out of the bubble. I think if I was not an Eagles fan, I think if I was out in the open and didn't have a biased take on this game, I'd probably look at it and say, people are freaking out about the Eagles and what they did without 3 of their 5 best players. And you look at the Bengals' 3 wins, I think they're against 3 of the absolute worst teams in the NFL, whereas the Eagles have beaten a pretty good Packers team. Like, you have that on your resume. And yeah, the Giants, they're not good. I think they have more wins than anybody the Bengals have beaten. I believe all the teams the Bengals have beaten have won 1 game. Or no, I apologize because they beat the Giants. Sorry, that's a bad job by me. I think the other 2 teams have 1 win. I think there's only 4 wins for the 3 Bengals teams that they've beaten. But yeah, I look at the Eagles and I think that there's a chance that, they're 4-2 sitting here. Obviously, I think there's a chance we're looking at a team that, yeah, is everything perfect? No. Is Sirianni the guy who we want making the close decisions when it comes down to it in the end of the game? Probably not. But I think that you look at what this team's done when they've had everybody out there, and it's hard to ignore.
It's kind of where I'm at. My big takeaway, my big thought going into this game, and I'm sure you've heard it, but this is a show me game. And Julian Edlow from a national perspective for DraftKings joined me yesterday, and he was like, the Eagles are going to have to show me in this game to make me believe that they could win this game. To me, I think the Eagles could be the talk of the NFL if they go into Cincinnati and beat Joe Burrow and they win by, let's say, 7-8 points, something like that. I really do think that you will start to hear people talk about Jalen Hurts MVP. You'll start to hear possibly this team can run with the Detroit Lions. This team can win the NFC just off of this one game. You know how it works. 1 week, everybody goes crazy. That's probably not telling you something you don't know already, but this is definitely a show me game. Look, the Eagles in back-to-back games, Jalen Hurts hasn't turned the football over. In back-to-back games, their defense hasn't given a touchdown. I don't care who you're playing against, how bad those teams are. Those are impressive numbers. And if you continue to do that, of course you're going to win football games on the defensive side. That's a no-brainer. But if Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the football over, I still think he's providing that edge. He's a difference maker with the legs. He can still throw it with the best of them. I'm not buying this nonsense that he's playing bad, pedestrian. Like, is he perfect? No, but he's still a hell of a damn talent out there, and I'm glad he's our quarterback. AJ, we already see it. The injuries with Jordan Mailata is definitely eye-opening. I won't lie about that, but look, they look pretty good against a damn good defensive line with the New York Giants. Saquon Barkley, feed him. This team should go in there and at the very least, Mark, hang with them, make this tight as hell, have a lead in the fourth quarter, and could possibly win this game outright. So, look, if you're making me, my bias is showing. Of course, I would say I'm taking the Eagles. I'm not taking Cincinnati. I'm not going to take Cincinnati. It's either Eagles or I'm just going to enjoy and watch the game.
Yeah, I can't do the thing where when Jalen Hurts plays an awesome game in week 1 outside of 2 throws. Jalen Hurts against Green Bay in Brazil, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns,
Great
had a
defense,
touchdown on the ground.
Great
He
defense.
led the last drive. Green Bay, great defense as well.
Yep.
You win the game. But yeah, he threw 2 picks. And guess what we talked about for the entire week after that? We talked about the 2 picks. We
Correct.
didn't talk about how great of a game outside of that he had. We didn't talk about him leading a drive at the end of the game to win the game. But then we talk about the 2 picks. But then he goes 10 for 14, 114 yards and a touchdown, no picks. He goes 16 for 25, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. And we're talking about how he doesn't look that good. We're not talking about how he's not turning the ball over. So people only talk about what they want to talk about. It's the angle that they want to take. People don't like Jalen Hurts. And I talked about this in the group chat, and I don't think you're going to like this take of mine. But part of the reason that you see some of the national Jalen Hurts criticism is because of the way that the local fan base and the local sports reporters and radio stations cover this team. Every other fan base that has a quarterback at Jalen's level, when the national fan base or when a national guy criticizes that guy, those fans are like, no, that's our guy. We love him. He's a stud. He's top 5. If you criticize Jalen, there's a lot of Eagles fans like who are going to respond and be like, he can't read a defense. He stinks. He needs to stick in there and throw the ball and stop turning the ball over. So when the national people see that, they must go, oh, if their own fans don't even think they're that good, it probably has an impact on how you feel about a player. And I think that that's just a fact. Detroit doesn't do this about Jared Goff. Guys like, Matt Stafford never had this done to him in LA when he was at his top. Like, I'm trying to think of Jalen's probably like the 8th or 9th best quarterback in the NFL. And we're some of the conversations, and we had someone in our group chat being like, is it fair to bring up any criticism? And it's like, yeah, it's fair to bring up any criticism when you also keep it in the proper context of what the rest of the NFL, what the rest of the quarterbacks, what the rest of the league is doing offensively in a year where offense is down. Here's some quarterbacks with more picks than Jalen Hurts: Mahomes, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Geno Smith, Dak Prescott, Anthony Richardson, Matt Stafford, Sam Darnold, who everybody made the MVP. And he didn't even throw a pick last night. So those are all guys who have turned the ball over more than Jalen. And then that's without even bringing what Jalen does with his legs. And even if he's not running to the degree that he was in 2022, and even if he's not breaking those designed runs, the threat of his run, if you don't think that has an impact on how good of a job Saquon's able to do on the ground and the attention that they're able to pay to Saquon, then you just don't know ball. I apologize.
That's it. No, I agree with everything you said, Mark. I really do. And exactly with the fan base, we are not quick to defend Jalen Hurts. You're right about that. There's definitely a contingent of fans that do, but they're in the minority, it feels like, on social media. And who knows? Obviously, the loudest voice always gets the most attention. But at the end of the day, Jalen needs to provide a little bit more belief. I think it all comes back to just how bad it crashed last year. It really does. And
absolutely.
People need to see a little bit more. Look, this win, this game, a win this weekend would go a long way. Will there be detractors? Of course. But I like they go up to Cincinnati and beat a good Bengals team that everybody look at the odds to make the playoffs. Cincinnati are still up there in front of a lot of other teams that
will be in there.
Yeah. Like, okay, well, this is a good team. Joe Burrow is a good damn quarterback, and he's a leader. He's got that team believing, really good wide receivers. This isn't going to be an easy game. So let's talk a little bit about that, the X's and O's. Crockpot was on the show yesterday. I love breaking down the game with him. Of course, you do as well. Just finding like where we need to key at. And one of the matchups he discussed, of course, when you think about Cincinnati putting Joe Burrow to the side, who's he throwing the football to? But Jamar Chase is a slot receiver, lines up a ton in the slot. And apparently he's going to be going a lot against Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean? Cooper DeJean. I said, yeah, I know. I said, it's because we were talking about JT earlier. But close. So I'm really intrigued by that matchup because I don't think that that's going to work out for the Eagles in their best interest. It's going to be one-on-one all game, and you make the changes, you make the adjustments. But you look at, Mitchell and what he's going to be able to do. He's going to have his hands full, whether it's T. Higgins or whatever they do. But Chase in that slot is going to be difficult because he is a stud out there. So that's one matchup I have my eyes on. When you really break this game down, putting the quarterbacks to the side, where do you start to take it?
I mean, obviously I mentioned it earlier. Like if this game goes wrong, you can probably bank on that Jamar took one or two short passes deep, that he probably did it himself. So he's one of the best players in the NFL. He's going to do that against anybody you play. So yeah, I'm scared. I will say, I thought DeJean looked fantastic so far in that role. They do move Jamar outside, inside for sure. One thing I'll say, I think if they just decide to lock Quinyon on T, like I think if you just put Quinyon Mitchell on T Higgins, I think that's going to go really well for Quinyon Mitchell. I'm a little bit of a T Higgins hater. I think he gets a little overrated sometimes. I'll be honest. Maybe this is where I get bit when he has 150 yards against us and 2 touchdowns. But I think that Quinyon Mitchell, the way that he plays is so physical, and that's how T Higgins wins. He's physical. He's so much bigger than so many other these receivers or some of the other these corners. And I think Quinyon can handle that. I think he's just a dog, and he gets in your face. You saw what he was doing, the neighbors last week, shoving him on the ground on the short routes. Like I just believe in that guy to handle physical matchups. And I think T Higgins is like the perfect person to lock him down on. And then you kind of just say, hey, Darius, hey, Cooper, like we're going to have to figure it out with Jamar. Maybe we double over top. I hope we do. In fact, I hope there's a lot of attention paid to Jamar at all times. But yeah, I think that's definitely something important to watch for. Fred Johnson is definitely a huge X factor in this game at tackle for the Eagles. He's been killing it in the run game. He's an incredible run blocker. Definitely has some deficiencies when it comes to pass blocking. So if anything, and you want to keep the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands, who's going to, short pass you to death, why not run the same game plan we ran last week? 14 passes, 80 runs, or whatever it was. I would love to just run the ball right up Cincy's face. And I know that their defensive line is pretty good. And I think it's probably underperformed so far this season. But they have a lot of dudes on that D-line that they've paid. I think that that's probably an X factor, how they handle the run and how they get after Jalen.
Offensively, Cincinnati, top 10 passing, bottom 5 rushing. So that's pretty easy to understand there. Defensively against the run, 136 yards per game. Put it in the ballpark. Carolina's last with 162 per game. The number 1 defense against the rush. Do you know who that is this year?
Is it Minnesota?
Minnesota's 3rd.
I won't get it then.
68 yards per game on the ground. They're
Miami?
giving up. Baltimore.
Wow.
68.
Part of that is because part of that is because they've been up in a lot of games, and then that influences it a little bit, so that you're passing on them. Even the one game they lost against the Raiders, like the Raiders had to pass that whole second half, so that's part of it with them.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. All right, so look, I'm with you, and to me, I think it's pretty much. It should be that way. It was that way for the last 2 seasons, right? Like the Eagles, don't get me wrong. The Eagles can hit you down the field. They can attack. They got great receivers, right? Like no ifs, ands, buts about it. As much as we're talking about the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they're right there, right? Like we're talking about 2 great duos of receivers there.
I'll take ours. I'll put that out there right now. I'll take ours 100%. I'll take Smith over T every day of the week.
That's what it comes down to, because I would take AJ over Jamar. I would.
AJ and Jamar, you had 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Make your case, make your argument. I'm fine with it. If you're making me say I'm biased, I'll probably say AJ. But you can make either case. I have no problem with it.
AJ is such a beast, dude. It feels like just get the ball down there and he's going to make that play. Jamar, the same thing. You're right. And then it comes down to T versus Devontae. And Devontae makes the tough catch. He's just that guy. And he's got the talent, the skills. But back to the point, though, it's like this team, like, why not be physical? You have all the gifts you need. a great offensive line. You see Juergens on that pull. It was Jason Kelce-esque. One thing that really stood out to me the most, I've said it multiple times, so people are probably sick of hearing it. The crazy thing about that play was Jason Kelce would have still been in front of Saquon Barkley. Like, if that's how crazy good Jason Kelce was. But Juergens pulls, like, you're right with dealing with Fred Johnson. That's going to be interesting. But still, Saquon is such a difference maker and just wants to hit the hole and the correct hole and just get those gritty yards, and such a team player behind the scenes with mic'd up. We're really getting who he is revealed right before our very eyes. Just a tremendous player to have on this team. Keep feeding him the rock as much as possible, and I think only good things are going to happen this weekend.
By the way, just because we mentioned the O-line, I'd feel remiss not to mention this. I saw Brendan Deeg tweeting it out earlier in the week, a guy I've had on the Tough Cover before. Lane Johnson is the only offensive tackle in the league with a minimum of 100 pass blocking snaps to allow less than 5 pressures this year. He has 1.
He's the best at his position, right?
It's absolutely. Yeah. Trent Williams is, I think, fallen a little bit as well. But yeah, the top 9 guys in pressures, all guards, mostly centers. Like 8 of the guys are centers, and then it's Lane and a guard. Like he is. It is not talked about enough, and that's why when you're missing Lane Johnson in those games in the middle of the year, and people are like, "I know Lane's out, but," and it's like, well, he's the best player in the position in the entire NFL. And AJ Brown makes $100 million and is a top 5 receiver, and Devontae Smith makes $80 million and is a top 15, 20 receiver. Like, it's almost like those players matter a little bit.
People are just out of their minds. That's all it comes down to. All right, speaking out of their minds, like DraftKings Sportsbook out of their minds, plus 165 for Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. What's going on there?
This is the highest, and I can track every Jalen Hurts touchdown market because I've bet it every single week since he's been a starter with the Eagles. What I would say to you, or besides, I think he was hurt once and I didn't bet it, but besides, what I would say to you, he has not been this high to score a touchdown in terms of his odds since the playoff game in 2022, his first year as a starter against Tampa Bay in the wild card round when he was plus 200. The entire 2022 season in the playoffs, the entire 2023 season in the playoffs, and this season, he has not been higher than plus 155. He is plus 165. I've already dropped 8 units on it. That's an absolute joke. He scored twice last week. It's funny when they did the second tush push, I said to my buddies, I was like, man, this stinks. I already cashed my bet. They're going to hurt the odds for next week. And we got the best odds we've gotten in 3 years. It makes no sense.
You know, I'm going to come off with like a negative Nancy here with this, but it just makes me feel like, what is going on? Like, the only way that I think the Eagles go out there and don't compete and don't win and don't make this a ball game is if we get a little of that dose of Tampa Bay. And I think there was a lot of things working against them in Tampa Bay. Of course, the injuries, number one, the heat. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I'll say it. I'll say it out loud. I think the heat probably got to them a little bit as well. They're not going to have to deal with Todd Bowles, everything. And it just snowballed, and it was just a complete buzzkill. And it looked like the Eagles gave up. It is what it is. Put that behind them. They won 2 straight now. I just feel like they got momentum, belief. They know, dude, it's the end of October. It's week 8. We're in the middle part of the season. Can't be having any more of those hiccups. It's go time. So, like, I'm not buying into this narrative that this is a Cincinnati play, but damn it, Mark, it's making it hard really not to, because 3-point favorites, right? When the Eagles, come on, give them a little bit more respect. And then this anytime touchdown by Jalen Hurts plus 165 really makes me believe, like, dude, are the Eagles going to score any points this week? And I'm nervous right now.
And the total's pretty high. It's not like it's like a low total anyway. So it really is a confounding market. What I will say, if they lose a close game, and this is probably just not possible. If they lose a close game, that we walk out of the game feeling not terrible about either side of the ball. Like if the defense doesn't get absolutely gashed, and if the offense looks good in some ways or steps up in some capacities, even if you lose a close game here, I'm not jumping off the ship. Like, just show up to this game. Do not show up to this game and get blown out and have a situation like that Tampa game. Do not get embarrassed. Yeah. Do not make your fans feel stupid for buying back in. But if you lose a close game on the road to Joe Burrow in a shootout or in 2017 or whatever the case may be, I'm not going to freak out. You beat Jacksonville next week, you'll be 5-3. But like you said, if you beat Cincinnati and you're sitting at 5-2 with a home game against the Jags to go 6-2,
crank it up. Good. Yeah, they're going to start being discussed in a different manner if they come away with the victory this weekend in Cincinnati. Ryan Beef Coyle checking in, wants to know what you think of his can't lose teaser.
I love it.
Raiders plus 20, Lions -1, Eagles plus 12.5. He says he loves it.
So the Lions are playing the Titans, right?
Lions,
not on that game.
The Lions.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Yes, Lions and Titans, 11.5 point spread, correct.
Yeah, the Lions should. I like the Lions and Raiders parts of that. The Eagles make me nervous. And like I said, I have no idea how this game goes. Like they could get blown out. Like I would. I'm trying to think who I would look to maybe tease a little bit. Maybe Buffalo. Like, can you see Buffalo losing by more than a touchdown to Seattle? I can't really like.
No.
And that just gives away who I like in that game. Maybe Green Bay +6 in Jacksonville. I can't see them losing anything other than a close game there. I wouldn't go with the Eagles. I like the other two there. I love the 10-point teasers. It's so fun. I'm 3-0 on them this year.
The can't lose teasers. Mark Henry Jr. 3-0. I love it. All right. Let's go ahead and hit the card then. Let's go ahead and go down as far as the games are concerned. Sunday at 1:00, we open up shop with Ravens and Browns division matchup. Baltimore 8-point favorites on the road, 44.5. This is a truly desperate spot for the Cleveland Browns. And I know they're not playing anything for future, but they're going to Jameis. If there's any chance that they're going to get a little bit of a buzz, a little bump in the right direction, it's this weekend. I like the 8 here. If I'm going to take a game aside, I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on Cleveland here.
Nice.
I'm a Jameis guy, so I feel obligated to be. They were plus 10.5 2 days ago. And so this line has dropped 2.5 points. It's still out there at 8.5. Like I've already bet it at 9. I'm starting to like it less now that the line's going down a little bit more, obviously. But you look at what Cleveland's been able to do when Deshaun Watson's not out there. They're 8-4 over the last 2 years against the spread with anyone other than Deshaun Watson starting a game. Watson has been so bad.
Uh-oh. Unplugged your mic. That's all right.
We're back. That was bizarre. But Deshaun Watson has been so bad that we have this idea that the Browns are terrible. We have this idea that the Browns are a joke. I actually don't think that's probably the case. Like, if you get a Jameis guy in there who plays like a 25th best quarterback instead of by far the 32nd best quarterback, I think that difference makes a big difference. And this is the type of game that Lamar and the Ravens do kind of mess around in and maybe not show up for sometimes fully. I will say, though, I'm taking the Browns. I like the Browns. I have to mention and I think I gave it out on the show, Lamar 18-1 in the offseason to win MVP. I'm holding that ticket. It's the largest MVP ticket I've ever bet. So let me just read to you what he's on pace to finish with here.
Front runner.
Here. 4,400 passing yards would be a career high. 37 passing touchdowns would be a career high. 5 interceptions, career low in a full season. 9.1 yards per attempt, career high. 10.2 air yards per attempt, career high. 68.2% completion percentage, career high. 118 passer rating, career high. QBR is a career high. 1,105 rush yards he's on pace to get. Over 1,100 rushing yards Lamar is on pace for. That would be the second highest of his career, and 5 rushing touchdowns that he's on pace to get. That is unbelievable, and it's going to be an interesting conversation because no one's going to have anything close to those rushing numbers from an MVP standpoint. And he's putting up far better numbers than last year when he won the MVP running away. It's going to be hard to not give it to him.
Lamar is an incredible player and something that we've never seen. And I go back to draft day and I just go, man, what were they thinking? What were they thinking?
Should have went first overall. I was saying it at the time. I really genuinely wish that I was doing draft content the way I do now and the way I have for the last 4 years in the 2017 draft, because I loved Lamar and Josh Allen, and I was so out on Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen.
Wow.
I could have made a career on it. But I mean, Darnold's back. But
yeah, I never understood the Lamar, the fact that he didn't go higher. I'd never understood that. I wasn't like slam dunk number 1 overall. Josh Allen was a question mark. I was a Rosen guy, though. Oh, big swing and a miss. Not too crazy. Yeah, not too crazy. Who drafted him? Not the Did the Cardinals draft him? Who drafted him?
Rosen, Cardinals. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that he was in a nice spot. I thought he was like your steady type of quarterback. I thought he had good mental. Ooh, big swing and a miss there. All right, let's keep it moving. We've got a lot of games to get to. I'm not going to waste any time here with the Titans and Lions, but Jameson Williams, what's going on there, dude? Come on, bro.
Get it together.
Come on. Yeah, like
I'll say that suspension and the Hutchinson injury. I said it on my show. I announced it last week, and I don't. The Green Bay Packers are going to the Super Bowl, and I hope people realize that and recognize that and get their bets in, because I didn't. I've been saying it for a month when they were plus 1,500. Now they're like plus 600 to win the NFC, and I never got the bet in. But the Packers are going to the Super Bowl.
All right. Excellent stuff there. We'll keep moving. Next game up. Speaking of them Packers, they're on the road against the Jags. Any shot the Jags? 4-point spread. They keep it close here.
Coming back from London? Absolutely not. This is where Doug gets fired, and you can get that at 3.5 there on DraftKings at minus 115. So I like that number. I'm going with the Packers. One of my favorite plays of the week. When it will be one of my biggest plays of the week. And the Packers. I felt like I was absolutely right to bet the Packers last week, and they win the game and they don't cover. They win by 2. They don't cover the 2.5. If you look at that game with the Houston Texans, they had a muffed punt. They had a pick in the end zone. They had a pick that got taken back to their 5-yard line. Like, just a lot of nonsense in that game that kind of allowed that game to be close. You look at what the Packers defense did to CJ Stroud, 10 for 21, 86 yards. I don't know if we've ever seen Stroud look the way he did last week. He was afraid. He didn't even throw any picks. He was afraid to take any chances down the field. He had no idea what they were throwing at him. Jeff Hafley, who was the Boston College head coach last year, who left to be the defensive coordinator in Green Bay, wants to be an NFL head coach down the line and thought that would be the way to do it. He's doing a great job. He seems to have figured some things out there in Green Bay. And like I said, Jacksonville coming back from London, I think you have to love this spot. Usually those teams have a bye. Jacksonville opted to do the 2 weeks in London to not have a bye. I don't know how that helps that at all. So I think I'm shocked this number's not 6.5 or higher.
Texans 5-point favorites at home against the Colts. Joe Mixon looks awesome. CJ Stroud's got to find a little bit more bravado. I think, losing Nico Collins just kind of changed things up, but still defensively, Texans are good. Colts, Anthony Richardson, good grief. What's going on there? I have no idea, but 5-point spread. You like the Texans giving a number here?
Yeah, I'm laying them with Houston here. Indy's covered 6 straight, which is kind of a crazy stat there. They're 6-1 against the spread on the year. But I'm going with Houston. I think Anthony Richardson stinks. I think the guy I watched him last week, and I was really watching like every snap of that game. And I just couldn't believe some of the throws and some of the decisions and some of the pocket presence. There's just nothing there. I usually, especially with a guy who has so much potential like that, you want to say give him as many chances as possible. So, you don't want to take him out and put Flacco in. With the wild card the way it is, with the Colts at 4-3, they're doing themselves a disservice to not play Flacco at this point. I think Richardson's lost cause. I don't think he's the future. This is I'm hoping Flacco doesn't come into this game, but I'll lay him with Houston.
All right, Jets given 7 on the road against New England. I think this is a big Breece Hall rushing and receiving yards at 106.5. New England's terrible against the rush. I think Breece Hall is going to be the guy that leads them to the promised land in this game, but a touchdown favorite.
Should I start this? I don't have a take on this game. Should I start Devontae Adams in fantasy against the Pats here, or David Montgomery against the Titans?
Wow, I can't believe I thought Montgomery was done for the season last week.
Me too.
That was wild because my buddy missed it and I go, dude, he's done. And then a quarter later, he's back on the field. I'm like, what? Wow. I got to go Montgomery.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth. And it's crazy because I'm actually playing Javonte Williams and J.K. Dobbins over both of them. Like they ended up above them on my rankings this week. But yeah, can't decide between those two. That's my.
I think I'm going to go Montgomery on that one, especially because Gibbs had the big one last week. So Montgomery's probably going to have a bounce back spot here.
And they should blow out the Titans. You run the ball.
I just think it's going to be an easy game on the ground for the Jets. Dare I say that out loud? And I don't know if they're going to be slinging it all the way left and right, but it could be key for them to get Devontae Adams going. Of course, that's only going to open up things, in future weeks, get him acclimated. I'm sure he's ready to go. He's been very opinionated this week. He had a lot to say with his first press conference, really, since he's been with the Jets, talking about, I'm not here to be the savior. People need to step up. Talked about the energy because apparently it wasn't up against the Steelers. Dude, they were up 15-6, I think it was. I thought for sure they were winning that ball game, and then all of a sudden it just went off the rails. That Wilson interception off his chest, like, dude, you got to catch that ball. What the hell's going on? And then Rodgers didn't play the best, but I'll give credit more so to Pittsburgh. We'll talk about the Steelers, but in that game, you laying the points?
With Jets Pats,
yeah,
I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Okay.
I would go Pats if I had to, but I wouldn't bet.
One of the more disappointing results for me last week, Falcons getting lumped up by the Seahawks. They're 2.5-point road favorites against the Bucks. I know the Bucks don't have anybody out there catching balls for Baker Mayfield. Your thoughts?
I'm going Atlanta. I don't think Baker. I think Baker was being propped up big time by having two legitimately star wide receivers. I think he's going to go back to being the average to below average quarterback that he is, instead of looking like the fringe top 10 guy that he is. I think he's like number 3 in fantasy right now, number 2 on some books. So yeah, that's not going to continue. So everything keeps coming up Falcons here. The Bucks receivers go out. The Saints, their entire team gets injured. The Panthers are the worst team in football, and then they show up and they lay the egg of all eggs last week. What the heck? That was shocking to me how uncompetitive they were, especially in the second half of that game. Kirk Cousins
without DK. DK got hurt.
Yeah, he was shredding them when he was in there, and then he gets hurt, and they still didn't have an answer. Really weird game. I'm going to choose to just, any given Sunday, I'm going to choose to ignore that one. I think Atlanta's going to win that division. Sitting at 4-3, they already have a win in pocket against Tampa, a win in pocket against New Orleans. You're tied with Tampa, and now Tampa loses their top 2 receivers. Even Evans, they're not going to get him back until week 11, week 12, and Evans is just out for Godwin's out for the year, obviously. So yeah, I don't think I'm taking the Falcons here, but I'd be lying if I said I'm nearly as confident as I was last week with a similar line.
Murderer's row for everybody that had anything to do with the Buccaneers as far as fantasy is concerned. Now, shout out to anybody that had the Miami Dolphins, because it looks like they're getting Tua back this week. Tua is cleared. He's ready to go. Of course, Tyreek Hill is fired up. I had to pull anything and everything. I had Waddle on 2 of my teams. So here we are, 4.5-point favorites at home against the Arizona Cardinals, 46, the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde team to a point. Not the ultimate, but definitely a Jekyll and Hyde team. One week they show up, they play well in the second half against the Niners. Next week they get lumped by the Packers. Who knows what type of Cardinals team we're going to get, but it comes down to Tua and whether or not he's going to be able to just slide right in and get this thing humming again. Your thoughts on this one?
No, you're absolutely right. They are the Jekyll and Hyde team I think that I've ever seen. Like, it's not even game to game, week to week. It's drive to drive. Like they'll come out on the first drive of the game and they'll look like the best offense I've ever seen. Marvin Harrison gets a 20-yard catch. James Conner goes for 15 yards. Kyler scoots for 10. They throw it to Michael Wilson and then Trey McBride touchdown. And you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest show on turf. And then they don't score for 2 quarters. It makes no sense. The Cardinals make no sense to me. And to me, that comes all the way down to Jonathan Gannon and Drew Petzing. You cannot put together, not even week to week, the inconsistent performances, but drive to drive, quarter to quarter, half to half, the inconsistent performances they're putting together. Becky's fired up about it.
Fired up, but we're not taking the dog there on that one.
By the way, if I had to, I would take Arizona, but I don't think you can. I don't think you can bet it either way.
Becky likes the dogs on that one. The Cardinals catching 4.5, 46 is your total. Yeah, I think it's too much of a question mark at this point in time for me to assume that Tua is going to slide right in and that offense is smooth sailing. A lot of question marks. I know they're having some success running the football, but it's just been a whole different monster with the string of quarterbacks they've marched in over the last 3-4 games, whatever it's been. I hope Tua stays healthy. God bless him. I'm cold and callous with my take, so we'll leave that alone. I've already said that enough. Moving on, though.
Wait, well, I'm actually curious. What's your take?
You know how like everything stops and it's like we have these, oh my goodness, concussion, like circle, that ESPN and Get Up. The whole next day is programmed about concussions.
Yeah.
Here you have Tua going, yeah, I'm not wearing that cap. Yeah, I'm back. He should be playing. Like, I don't care. It's one man's take. I retired. You got $200 million. Go.
He doesn't get it.
He doesn't get all of that.
No,
he's gonna get.
He gets like this year, and like it's only like 30%. So it's
my take is this. He made his choice. This is a physical game. Every one of these players have signed on the dotted line.
Absolutely.
Let's stop shutting it down and treating it like the world's got to come to a complete halt because a guy got knocked out in the middle of the field. I hate it that I'm saying it, but it's got to stop. These guys don't care. And you know what? It's a physical game. It's never going to change. You can police it as much as you want. Throw flags on every play. Guys are going to get concussed. Guys are going to break legs. Guys are going to be knocked out. Like, stop it.
So you're saying either retire or let's not do a day of programming every time it happens to Tua. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. What I would say is, yeah, from an objective standpoint, there's no argument he should be playing football. Yeah. Like, obviously, if you're just asking any of us.
That wasn't a hard hit by Damar Hamlin.
No, he should be retired. But when you come down to it, it's that man's decision. That's his life. It's his job. It's his career. It's everything he's worked towards. It's probably everything that is tied up into his self-worth. It has to do with football. So, yeah, is that dark? Absolutely. But it's life. It's life. And it's if you try to take someone's career when it's been incredibly successful and lucrative for them, you know, I think he's looking at it and he's like, I'm willing to take my chances. And it's hard for me to hate on him.
He said this was a game he'd die for. He said it this week. So we need to just listen to that and say, the crazy thing is, Mark, and I mean this with all love and respect. I saw a show. It was VSiN Morning, and it was Lombardi, and I forget. I'm a fan of hers. She's really good. She started the morning show host. Oh, man, it came from CBS. I've actually DM'd her. Like I said, hey, you're doing a great job. I watch VSiN. She's a really nice girl. But it was crazy because the perspectives, and that's what we're dealing with. I feel like there's a divide, as always, young and old, where the young folks kind of are like, oh, my God, that can't happen. We need to do this. Like, dude, it's a physical game. These guys are gladiators. You're not going to change it. You're not going to change it. Like, what do you suggest? We put flags on these guys? Then it's not football. It's not NFL. It's not like it's completely different. Other than that, you are never going to prevent this ever. They can wear those big ass caps, which they should. They wear them in practice.
We don't know scientifically if those caps even really make a difference. It's like up in the air. It's up for debate apparently. So, and by the way,
and also
they do is worth it. But
and also to I do want to point this out because I did kind of drag him on that point. I did watch a video. His helmet essentially has that bubble cap. It's new technology. Rodgers was a part of it. Blah, 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 blah. The safety is as best as you can get, right? We're not messing around. These guys are signing $300 million contracts. They're getting the best of the bestest equipment, especially for the heads. But
don't bring up $300 million contract. I don't even want to turn this into a whole boomer corner. The Joel Embiid thing with the way people are talking about the All NBA rule, like it's taking away, Tyrese Halliburton's going to have to sign for $220 million instead of $280 million, and the league should be ashamed of themselves.
Me and you could do a whole nother. You and I could do a whole nother hour on just Joel Embiid and just like with everything. Like I've lost my mind this week. I got nothing for you.
By the way, it's funny that we all mentioned that Saban is literally sitting with Pat McAfee right now, and McAfee just asked him, and Saban said, if he wants to play, which I've talked to him, and I know he wants to play, I know what kind of competitor he is, that I'm happy for him that he's having the opportunity to play, but I also pray for him that he doesn't have any issues. I'm concerned that I want Tua to be safe and healthy and not have a football career that's going to impact his life down the road. I think organizationally, this is a medical decision. He has to make a decision. Is the risk reward from a medical standpoint worth it to you? It's not really saying anything, but it's interesting to hear Saban talk about it.
Yeah, I love Nick Saban. Love the McAfee show. Matter of fact, Schwarber is the celebrity picker on game day. He's talking to him right now. Gotta love that. He's a big old country bumpkin. You could just see him in his shed. Schwarber, yeah, he's definitely a little redneck there. Anyways, look, here's rapid fire, Mark, because we're up against a great conversation. 45 total minutes, as always, here on a Friday. Let's keep it going, though. Bills and Seahawks, 3-point spread. Bills on the road in Seattle.
I love Buffalo here. I think Buffalo is a true contender out there in the AFC. Outside of the Chiefs and the Ravens, they're probably the number one team I'd take in the AFC. that Seattle game last week has me thrown for a loop because I thought I had Seattle totally figured out. They come out those first 3 weeks, they go 3-0 against 3 terrible teams and quarterbacks, and then the next 3 weeks they look terrible. They lose to Detroit. They looked okay against Detroit, but losing at home to New York, losing a terrible game to San Fran, they were never in it. And then they show up last week and they beat Atlanta 34-14. Again, I'm choosing to believe that was a fever dream. I'm choosing to believe that was a one-off. I don't think the Seattle team's for real. Give me Buffalo, and I think Buffalo hangs it on them.
Let's go. Broncos giving 11 points to the Panthers. Who are the Broncos to give 11 points? Are the Panthers that bad?
To be honest, I haven't looked into that game because I think I saw the line earlier this week, like 8 or 9, and I was like, I'm not taking that. I cannot believe the Broncos are favored by 11.
If I made you make a play, if I made you make a play right now,
Denver.
Yeah.
Carolina's that bad.
You're giving the 11. I'll take the 11. I'm going Carolina. Everybody said at the beginning of the year, the odds are telling you to take Carolina. And I was just like, dude, I wouldn't put your money on Carolina. Now this is the first time in week 8 that I'm saying I will back the
Bryce Young, right?
Yeah, Bryce Young back in the mix. Andy Dalton got into a car accident. Bears and Commanders, 3-point spread. No, Jaden Daniels. He's not going to play in this one. Caleb Williams will, though. Commanders look good with Mariota. Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see practice.
Limited practice, but he practiced.
I can't see him going this weekend.
Wow.
This is right.
Like for a quarterback, I can't remember there being like such an up in the air 50-50 call on a Friday. It feels like we usually have it figured out. Like it feels like we usually know by Friday. It seems if he wouldn't have practiced today, I would have said no chance. But by the way, we should all be hoping he doesn't play. For the Eagles, it's a big game. Chicago, I think we're all rooting very hard for the Chicago Bears in this game. So I think the Commanders are who we're going to be dueling it out with for that division title.
All right. I like that. You got to play in that one, 3-point spread?
It would be Chicago, but it's hard for me without the Jaden information. If it's Mariota, what will the line be, you think? Or are they factoring that in now with the Bears being -3? Like that's what I don't – if it's -3 and Mariota's the quarterback, I'll take the Bears.
Okay, I'm right there with you. Sunday Night Football, boys and Niners. Niners 4-point favorites, 47. 2 desperate teams right here. Your thoughts?
I'm going Niners. I said it earlier. I'm starting to doubt my belief in the Niners, but Brock Purdy had his worst game in a while last week. I think he bounces back against the Dallas defense that doesn't have a lot in the middle of the field that can impact you. So, I mean, the last time we saw Dallas, they lost 47-9 against the Detroit Lions. And I know they had a bye to clean some things up, but I think, San Fran on a revenge spot is not where I'd want to be. By the way, you skipped the best game of the 4:00 slate. Spencer Rattler.
Oh, stop
the New Orleans Saints. But no, if I would lean Saints there. I would lean Saints there. They're getting some offensive linemen back. Apparently Olave might be back. Chargers should not be favored by 7. Even the way that the Chargers play, they want to beat you like 17-14. So yeah, I think that's a lot of points.
I did skip it. All right, final one here. We're heading to the college card. We'll get on Monday night, Monday. Let's get to the college card. Boise and UNLV. 3.5, 63 our total. Ashton Jeanty averaging over 200 yards per game. Front runner for Heisman at +220 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Your thoughts?
I'm on Boise. I'm on Boise here. I bet -3.5. I'm all over Ashton Jeanty, whatever his name is, however you say the last name. But I think it's just people are not paying enough attention to. And I know he's the Heisman front runner. Yada yada yada. It should be like national news when this guy's on television, the way he's playing right now. He's that electric. He's that good. He's that much better than the rest of his field. You look at he has 1,248 yards here in let me get the amount of games correct. 1,248 yards in 6 games. The next highest is a full 250 yards behind him at Iowa. And I believe he's played 7 games. So it's just, and then the next guy after that, he's 400 yards in front of, and it's the quarterback of Army, who's played 7 games as well. So what Jeanty is doing, I should just say Ashton. What Ashton is doing is just historic. He's going to potentially break the record. We were talking about it on the Big Range show. This is one of the best running back seasons we've ever seen in college football. And I know that it's happening at Boise, so it makes it a little bit weirder. But I keep waiting for him to have the 80, 90-yard game with a touchdown where kind of the hype stops. 267, 192, 127, 259, 186, 217. Like 17 touchdowns sprinkled in there running, 9 or 1 touchdown sprinkled in there on the ground or on through the air. I get that it's square to just talk about Ashton this whole time, but you look at the Boise State quarterback, top 25 in QBR, UNLV pass defense, pretty vulnerable. So the run defense supposedly is pretty good. I will say, I think he's run D proof. I think it doesn't matter what the run defense is against Ashton. The Oregon run defense has been great, except for when they played Ashton Johnson.
You're right.
And he went nuts. And I just genuinely pray that Boise makes it to that playoff, because I think they can have an interesting game with someone due to just how talented he is and the way that the quarterback plays off of him and has stepped up a bit. So, and you saw what they did against Oregon. I really want Boise in the playoff.
All right. Well, it's definitely a game that I'll be watching. Some college football, hopefully a little bit better than last night's Syracuse and Pitt game. That's for sure.
Oh, that was great for me. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I was on Pitt, and I'm an anti Kyle McCord guy, and Beef has taken every opportunity to troll me on that for the entire season. Every time he puts up 300 yards against the Little Sisters of the Poor, and now we see on national television what Kyle McCord is. And by the way, Beef is commenting along. I don't even think Beef follows sports. Beef just follows my picks and takes, and he's like, "Oh, I like the opposite. I hate Joel Embiid. I like Zach Edey. I like Kyle McCord. I like Virginia. I like UCLA." Fraud, Beef.
I love it. Well, hey, guess what? Because that's a great segue. Because coming up next, the big brains on college football. The college football preview podcast is following with Ryan Beef Coyle, Mark Henry Jr., and Joe Tansey. So don't touch that dial. Mark, always a pleasure to run through the gauntlet of games with you here on a Football Friday. Your favorite play this weekend, though? What are you eyeing up? One play.
Besides Jalen, I would go. Michigan State plus 5.5 against Michigan. I think they win outright. Little brother.
Oh, I like that. That's an interesting angle. Great stuff. Mark Henry Jr. You know him. You love him. You follow him. Dude is an animal. Make sure you hear him tomorrow on the Tough Cover Radio Show live from 11 to 1. Do you know that we will be following you live from Villanova with our Villanova Road Show, live from Villanova Homecoming, 1 to 3 p.m. I'm going to be sitting down, myself and John Jansen, with Kyle Neptune, head coach of the Villanova men's basketball team. Randy Foy will be on the program, Friends of Nova.
Candy boy Randy Foy.
Damn right. Mark Ferrante going to join us before the game against New Hampshire. We're going to be all things Villanova from 1 to 3 p.m. They're getting their hoops started this weekend on Sunday with a charity scrimmage on Sunday. You can catch all the action on Fox Sports Radio Philadelphia. Once again, Mark Henry Jr. here tomorrow from 11 to 1 Tough Cover Ratio. Mark, you're the best.
Tough Cover Country. Let's ride. I forgot my
Hey, big brains on college football coming up on the other side. We'll talk to you.